Greetings, travelers. Oh my gosh, it's January 6th. It is one of the most important times of the year. And this is an old tradition. It came up to me because a little bit of personal history here. I had a pretty bad custody battle with my kids for a long time. Took like 3 or 4 years to get the Muncie kids back. And it was a hard time. And I worked retail, so I didn't mind sharing the kids with the ex-wife over the holidays because I was retail. So our busiest weeks of the year was December 25th through January 6th. So it was just nonstop. So when I'd get the kids home, we'd have a Christmas then. It was kind of like a late Christmas, but I realized it kind of worked out because January 6th is not just another day on the calendar. It's old Christmas. This is a holiday older than the hills. This is steeped in tons of tradition, particularly Appalachian tradition. For those of you who know it, I'll be impressed because this is something that I had even forgotten that I was technically doing. So, here we go. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine to 1752. And Britain has decided that it and its colonies are no longer going to use the Julian calendar. We're switching to the Gregorian calendar. And so 11 days basically vanish overnight. And so December 25th is moved forward. And now it is where it is. But in the mountains, particularly in Scotland and Ireland, and of course, Appalachia, because it's all Scottish, Irish descent at that time, mostly, they said, you know what, you can change the calendar, but you can't change God's time. You can't change the birth of Jesus. So they kept Christmas on January 6th as this defiance, right? It's kind of a badge of honor saying the old ways matter more than your government traditions. And and so I was looking up some of the traditions that go on at that time that I had forgotten about. And I'm like, oh, goodness, I'm kind of worried about these. And I'm going to share these with my Eerie travelers because you guys need to know this stuff. So the first one is that, did you know on the night of January 6th at midnight that animals speak? Now, that's not the night before going into January 6th. This is going into January 7th. And basically the tradition is that on the stroke of midnight, the barnyard comes alive and the cows and horses and sheep and everything else gain the power of speech. Now, there is a big catch to this. Do not listen. Listening is forbidden because there's some stories out there that say that if you eavesdropped on any of these conversations, you would hear prophecies of death or disaster. And if you did listen, you were likely not to survive the year. Now, this is mostly, I heard about this in kind of Eastern Kentucky, Eastern Tennessee, and Western North Carolina, the Smoky Mountain range. And families would tell the kids in that area, just stay inside because you might hear the animals' dreadful truths at midnight. And you certainly don't want to hear the black goat or or any of that. Old Black Phillip might tell you something you don't want to hear. Oh my gosh. And it was so funny because driving home on the road today from an early morning errand, I saw a bunch of squirrels just kind of standing around together. And I immediately thought of an old Alfred Hitchcock Tales for Children album where there was a joke about these squirrels gathering and this kid was sleeping and they were like, what are we going to do with this kid? And they were like, well, wait for Charlie to come. He'll know what to do. And then a bigger squirrel would come and the kid's like getting more terrified as he's watching these bigger and bigger squirrels. And they're like, oh, we'll just wait for Charlie to come. And then finally a squirrel as big as a house shows up and he's like, they're like, what are we going to do with the kid? And he's like, oh, let's wait for Charlie to come. And the kid at this point has just lost it. And he starts running and he says, tell Charlie I couldn't wait. Love it. Sorry. Just a classic story. Anyway, let's see. Let's go back to Christmas here. Old Christmas. Back to that. Uh, one of the other big things is that at midnight as well, water will transform everywhere. So the springs and the rivers will suddenly shimmer and go beautiful. And if you put a bucket of water out, some people said it would change completely and it would taste super, super sweet or super full. And so people would leave buckets out, jars, and or maybe a sipping dipper out by the spring house or the pump house or just the pump, and they would test this theory with it. And some say it, kind of thickened or that shimmering in the water. And some people who tasted it said it was sweet as the Lord's own promise. That was a quote. I love that one. But the reason it was supposed to happen is that it was the miracle. It's meant to be witnessed. It's supposed to be the water turning into wine again. And you're not supposed to drink it, though, because that's holy water now. You should save it for emergencies and special occasions and things like that if you need to bless something. So, yeah, who knows? Well, there's some other darker parts of this traditions, and we'll get to those after the break. All right. Hope you enjoyed those commercials. All right, back to Old Christmas. Now, Old Christmas, again, thin night. The veil between worlds is very fragile. And I remember hearing that the dead walk on Old Christmas was a expression that was common in the old days. And I heard it once or twice myself. And it's basically, this is like a second Halloween, right? The spirits wandered freely, and wise families would bar their doors, right? That was, you lock the doors, you don't let anybody in. Again, kind of like that New Year's Eve tradition of don't let anybody in on New Year's Eve. There's just a lot of traditions not to let anybody into your house. But January 6th, this winter Halloween basically was a night of omens and ghostly crossovers. I heard a relative once say the veil's as thin as an onion skin, and it's best to stay indoors after dark tonight. I don't remember if that was Old Christmas, but it was definitely winter time when we were all locked into the house and the snow outside. So I might be confusing, my epileptic brain might be confusing the days, but it might have been Old Christmas. So anyway, best to stay indoors tonight. Don't listen to animals and watch out for ghosts. But now morning, though, is the sun itself supposed to dance. And it's, some people say it jumped like 3 or 4 times in the morning, and others say it would shimmer red, the blood of Christ or something like that. It's supposed to be a sign of the birth of Jesus, but kind of a warning as well, because it's supposed to say, hey, this is still winter, be careful. In Scotch Irish tradition, January 6th was the day to slaughter a hog, because this is the feast. This was the ancient Yule feast. So you had sausage and you had pudding. Sometimes you'd have crackling bread because you had the slaughtered hog. And this was supposed to promise prosperity for the year. And it was a nice way to do a Christmas feast again. So Old Christmas, a Yule feast. And again, this kind of blended with those Appalachian foodways. So it kind of became kind of a ritual in the mountains, and kind of just, a testament to survival of the winter and all that. Now, this day also has a gift giver. It's not Santa. They called him the Old Christmas Man, or just Christmas Man. And he wasn't fat and jolly. No, he was thin and kind of ghostly. And he brought small presents, or, like tokens and just little things. Sometimes he would just make a simple blessing of your home. He was kind of more like a wandering Christmas spirit. And sometimes he was described as like a ghost of a shepherd, possibly one of the shepherds from the Nativity. Sometimes people said he was more like the wise man, one of the wise men that was left behind. but usually he was benevolent, but sometimes he brought warnings for the family for the coming years and just, be careful. Something's coming up. It's just kind of, Christmas tradition there. And again, children kind of waited for him instead of with wonder. They were kind of worried about this guy. Is he going to bring us presents or is he going to bring us, a warning again? Anyway, Old Christmas, it survived in Appalachia. Because the mountains, they preserve things like that. It's isolation and it's just craziness. I love the holler stories. And again, this is kind of that Scotch Irish stubbornness. Why would we let somebody else change the calendar? Why are they changing the dates? And January 6th is our time to be alive. And this thing was recorded that all the way into the 20th century. Some families in Kentucky and North Carolina were reporting about this, and they still call it real Christmas there, real Christmas. And I'm kind of certain that somewhere in those hollers, there's some people who still call it that. I can't blame them. It's an interesting time, interesting thing. So again, January 6th, Old Christmas. I hope some of you appreciate that and go slaughter a hog if you can. I think that sounds great. No, just go buy well, the McRibs are done, so I don't know what you're going to do. Go find your local barbecue place and have a good time. So reminder that, just Appalachian backwoods, it's no ordinary day. It's the animals speak, the water shimmers, spirits walk, and the sun dances. And Old Christmas, it's not history. It's a time to remember that the government can't push you around all the time. And we'll see you on the other side.